Hey everyone, and welcome back to another solo leveling rise video. My name is D-Free. Really quick before we get into it, we do have 2,000 essence stones currently available within codes, assuming that you've not claimed any so far. But what you need to do is go ahead and go to the description, click that tab, click support on that page. It takes you to, I think that is region specific, and you also have to not be supporting another creator. But once you do that, give me about a day or so and I'll send these codes out to you. Everybody watching the video that does support will get this. And of course, make sure you stay supporting because it does help me out as well. But once you do that, click the 3 lines in the top corner, click my page, and then go to the supporter tab. After about a day, it will populate the codes that I will send you manually. So we got 500 essence here with mana power elixirs, another 500 with skill rune chests, 30 trace of shadows, and 300,000 gold, another 300,000 gold, and a whopping 1,000 essence stones. So you guys are going to definitely want to make sure that you get, again, 2,000 essence. This is exclusive to the creator support, so make sure you do so if you haven't already via the link down below in the description. Also, if you watch this video like 3 weeks from now, these will probably not be eligible, so there will be another batch down the road, so keep that in mind. All right, everyone, so now we're going to get into the tips, but first, make sure you subscribe because 80% of viewers are missing out by not being subscribed to the channel. They're missing out on free codes for one, when I have those like all the time. And on top of that, they are also missing out on the awesome content like this video will be. So make sure you're not a part of that and you're joining the 20% that is subscribed. Also, if you see the video below, the like goal, I'd greatly appreciate your contributions. The goal for today is going to be 1,000. It's free, helps tremendously with the algorithm. Please make sure you do hit that thumbs up as well. If you see it beyond that, that'd be nice too. All right, so these are going to be in no particular order. We're just going to be bouncing around a lot for the tips. So I wanted to just kind of explain how the gacha system works in this game. So firstly, the game operates with an SSR 50-50 system. So basically, every time you pull an SSR, it operates a 50-50. So, or shouldn't say every time, every other time. So the 50-50 operates on the first time. So you have a 50-50 chance of getting it or getting something that was not the designated character. And if you don't get it, then the next time up, it will be guaranteed that the very next time you get an SSR, it could be the next multi, right? It doesn't have to be all the way to the maximum pity number, which is 80 in the bottom corner. The very next SSR you pull, this could happen 3-4 multis consecutively over and over again. The very next one will be guaranteed to be the character you're looking for. And then after that, after you've pulled that character, you're back to a 50-50 chance. And then after you lose or win that, it operates another 50-50 or guaranteed. So every time you lose the 50-50, you are guaranteed the character the following time you get an SSR. I've had this work in my favor to the extent of pulling the same character like 3 to 4 times within like 6 or 7 multis, the same character, because it's always a 50-50 chance. So that's really cool the way that this game is weighted. And again, you don't have to go all the way to the 80. It is listed here 59 out of 80. What happens is as you get to like 64, I believe, they start increasing your SSR pull chance. It's extremely hard to get to 80, but when you get to 64, every single individual summon increases your SSR pull chance by 5%, right? 5%. So you get to 70 and you're up like what? What's that? I'm bad at math. Like 30% or something like that. And you're going to be, and that's why I said it's extremely hard to get to even 80, right? The cool thing with this also is the pity does transfer. So you could leave it like this and basically the next multi I do will guarantee me an SSR pretty much. It's unlikely not to get an SSR within the next multi from here at the 59 number. So that being said, you could leave it like this for another 20 days. When the next gacha pops up, it will transfer over, right? And that is for this ticket exclusively, right? This ticket exclusively. As you see, there's that. The game has 3 different tickets. The good news is the 50-50 system, the 64 out of 80 and beyond increased rates, all that stuff applies everywhere. The only difference is in these, since you get to select what you want, that pull rate, that 50-50, it's separated between, in this case, the 50-50, it's separated between these 4 characters. The 4 choices I chose, to be specific, weapons and characters. So that 50% is broken in a weighted fashion towards these 4 characters. As you see, pause the screen if you want, but they explain all the stuff I've been explaining right here under draw support, and that's how the gachas work in this game. But yeah, as there's more selections, it's separated a little bit higher. So like here, that 50-50 has a little bit better of a weight chance because there's no other characters here. There's only 2 selections, and the 50-50 is guaranteed here because, you know, it's only 1 choice as the new hunter on these banners. So that's the way the gacha works. Now, you will get a lot of tickets throughout your progression of the game, particularly the black ticket. So the next thing I'd like to say is with the black tickets, don't worry a ton about these, but do make sure you're planning. For example, they have a login bonus going currently right now that gave like 100, or maybe it ended already, but it gave like 100 of these, maybe more than that. And they give them pretty consistently. You get these from the story mode, I believe. Like, they're all over the place. They're really easy to get. So that's a cool thing about this. And about a month to a month and a half, give or take, after the release of a character, I'll say 2 months because Kanai is about 2 months ago. Anyway, let's say 2 months after the release of a character, they are added in here. And you can choose whoever you want, characters and all that stuff. New weapons for Sung Jinwoo are exclusively added here. Stormbringer is a brand new weapon. They're exclusively added here, and the weapon draw, they are not put in for this ticket here. So keep that in mind. But you can actually, if you say, for example, don't want to get Surin here, you know, come back in what, June, beginning of June, and she'll be available here, right? Or say you wanted to get more copies of her, come back beginning of June, and she'll be available here for you to select. So if there's ever a hunter that you like want to get more dupes in or something like that, they are always added here until they're not, I guess. But up to this point, as Solo Leveling is about to hit a 1-year anniversary next month, up to this point, that has always been the case. So keep that in mind. You're going to get a lot of these black tickets exclusively. The white ones are also pretty easy to get to, but those ones are a little bit more scarce. All right. Since Jinwoo is back staring into my soul here, I wanted to transition over to the next tip, and that'll be, actually, let's go back where we were. That'll be focusing on characters that are mostly meta, but I would like to say, like, get the characters you enjoy, because that's what's going to keep you playing. I know that's cliche to say, right? And I can't really tell you specifically what the best stuff is, because what if you watch this video a month from now? What if you watch this video, well, 1 month probably isn't too bad, but what if you watch this video 5 months from now? We don't go back and delete these videos, right? I'm not going to do that. So what if you watch it then? So you have to kind of obviously keep that in mind. But what I can give you is some general recommendations based on right now. So firstly, a lot of the game is predicated on elements. So like full water, full wind. We're about to hit a water meta pretty big for the anniversary, with Chahyun coming in as the water DPS most likely to fill out the team with her, the Surin that's on the other banner. And yeah, we'll go from there with the Chahyun, like I said. But a lot of the game is predicated on elements, right? And you've got the game modes where it's Sung Jinwoo plus support hunters, or there's no Sung Jinwoo and just you'll have to use these characters only, and they've got their own individual value. But you're typically looking to build teams based on elements. For example, extremely strong team right now is the fire team, right? I'd also throw Yu Soo-hyun in here because her and Kanai it's the first time we've really had that, I think, where you can really alternate. And then also I'd throw a bit of a bone to Che Dongin. He's pretty solid as well. But like the fire team is extremely strong, right? The wind team with these two and Goto, who's not here right now. Goto will be here next month, but his banner just ended like literally a couple weeks ago or a week ago. So he's kind of in limbo. You can't really get Goto right now, I don't believe. But the wind team, the light team, you know, you're going to get Go, you're going to get Thomas, you can get Shimizu, you can get Min. Chahyun is also in the mix a little bit. She's a little bit more situational in my opinion, but that's kind of the way that the game is predicated right now. So the best characters are the ones that are going to fill in your teams. So make sure you understand that. If you have like 3 pieces or 2 pieces out of 3 for like the win team, well, you need to get that last character. Now, another thing to consider is that all these characters can get advanced up to 10 times. The first 5 unlock new passives. And I'll tell you, a lot of hunters need just flat out, to be honest with you. A lot of hunters need that first duplicate in them to unlock that first passive extension to be extremely good. And then they obviously get much better with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, right? Like that's to be expected. It's a way to try to get you to spend money. But the good news is, like I said, this game is extremely free to play friendly. They give a lot of soul essence and a lot of these tickets. So don't worry about that so much. But that could impact the teams you're building. Like some of these hunters, like the wind hunters or whatever, they'll have effects in their passive extensions when they get like the 3rd, 4th dupes, where they get extra damage based on being on an only win team, like things like that. So there are things like that to consider for sure. But anyway, without beating around the bush, Sung Jinwoo weapons, I haven't talked much about them. These two are pretty universal. They have largely been the weapons most people would say to go for, to get, to carry you through story to an extent anyway. And that is mostly true. We're starting to hit a breaking point though, where like, cause for a while it would be Plum Sword plus whatever other weapon, right? And that would be mostly what you're doing. I think we're hitting a breaking point here where you're starting to see combinations that are just better than that now. For example, I think this wind combo is better than dropping one of these for Plum Sword or Moon Shadow, things like that. I think we're starting to hit that breaking point a little bit. But those are some of the best weapons. So Plum, Moon Shadow, the fan is extremely strong. It's a brand new weapon, or second new weapon, I guess. But the break is very useful. Fire meta is really strong. If you get the fire, you want to pair it with the bow, in my opinion, nothing else. Quarterstaff, extremely strong DPS weapon. The pair for this is a free-to-play weapon right now, or the Plum Sword. The free-to-play weapon is a Foxtail, so you'd be coming back for that. It's not available on this gacha. Just general breakers, Serin and Goto. So Serin is over here right now. Serin and Goto are the best breakers in the game right now, in my opinion. Go Gunhee is the next best one, in my opinion, as well. And those are the ones you would mostly be looking for. In terms of supports, then if you're looking for a support character to help fill out your team, or a role with Sung Jin-woo, she's extremely strong, but only after the third dupe specifically. Min is pretty universal, but also really wants that first duplicate. Maylin Fisher is going to be really strong for a good bit here. She may even see a bit of a balance change with the new water meta. Very strong, especially after, I believe, the third or fifth dupe. The fifth dupe is insane, but the third dupe I think is really strong on her. And also, breaker characters also sometimes have support effects that are really strong. And Essel here has some of that. It's good. Like, I think she has the prey on her and stuff like that. But her weapon's really strong. So sometimes hunter weapons also are very powerful. So that's more or less what you would want to focus on right now. So, you know, I talked about how those hunters have duplicates and stuff like that. But I also explained how the game is extremely free-to-play friendly. Do not worry so much about getting the characters, the dupes in. Like, here are the extensions, seconds, 3, 4th, 5th advances. Don't worry too much about this in the early stage. I think it's more important to just try to get your team built right now, and go from there. And some of these characters, like, she's a primary DPS, but also has a really interesting support effect for Sung Jin-woo. Some of these characters have different uses as well, depending on the content you're taking them in. But don't worry too much about getting high advances on them early game, because they can still be useful in a lot of different fashions, right? So I would mostly, like I said, get your team together, but mostly focus on a couple of teams at a time at that. So here's what I mean by that. So you don't have to worry about this too much, but once you get, like, if you're a new player anyway, but once you get into it and you start unlocking these right side game modes, that's where you really start to feel the crunch of the game saying, hey, only use certain elements, right? And as you see, the rewards are pretty good for some of this stuff. There's a lot of, like, ranking stuff. Look at that, 520 of these. There's a lot of ranking stuff, time-based stuff. Like, it kind of determines how free-to-play friendly the game also becomes in a lot of assets, because, or facets, because you have to be trying to keep up with some of this stuff to really be consistently getting good rewards and getting the benefit of that. So I just got like 10 blessing stones from that. It's like, that's really good. So anyway, you don't have to worry about it too much unless you get to the right side of things. But what you want to do is, from here, mainly focus your resources into a couple of teams. And a lot of different game modes will have different element requirements, sure, but I would mostly focus on Workshop. And the cool thing with Workshop is there's always like dual elements on here. Where the hell's Vulcan at? Vulcan is in here. Yeah, so like wind, water. You're gonna want to start off here, wind, water. And then with Baron, when you unlock him, he's wind, dark. The dark team, it kind of didn't really matter all that much, to be honest. It just depends on your overall power. Like, you could use whatever one you want, but I think the dark team was just a smidge better, but you have to have a certain setup for that. So the wind team's a little bit more universal, especially because wind is good here as well. So I would say wind is probably the better team to build for the early portion, especially with Goto. Yeah, with Goto, I think that swings it. Pre-Goto, when it was Wu, you didn't have as much DPS. So once you unlock Baron, by the way, I would focus on trying to beat hard Baron for a while to get his remnant power leveled up and unlocked. So that's a tip that I would just throw in there as well. But after that, as you see, it turns into fire light. So you want to try to just focus on a couple of teams that you need for a while. And the good thing is that once you get to a certain point and you've done that and you don't need the characters anymore, they run, and it's not live right now, but they run events where you can basically reset your artifacts and your characters and get back some of that investment, so you don't feel as bad about it. You can reset your stuff, so that's cool too. All right, so speaking of artifacts, this is the next piece of this, and that is that artifacts are going to be a huge chunk of your overall total power, and they're also going to be a huge chunk of min-maxing the game. This is something I still myself, having played a year, still myself have not taken seriously enough to the point of absolutely min-maxing this to the degree that some of the other creators have or players have. And it absolutely does hold you back if you don't min-max to that degree, by the way. But if you want to, first things, make sure you're building out 4-piece sets or 8-piece sets. Most of the time, if there's an 8-piece set available, like for with Burning Curse, for example, has an 8-piece set effect, most of the time you want to try to get that. Also, if I were to switch on a level 100 Burning Curse set, I would have, you know, a higher power as well, just to keep that in mind. If you're specifically trying to cook the books and get a higher power, the 8-piece set at higher levels will be the better way to go. But, you know, keep that in mind. Also, attack investment is really solid for power. However, not all hunters need attack, so don't give everybody an attack increase artifact or things like that. You want to make sure that you're giving the hunters what they specifically need. If they're a DPS character, they want typically damage increase or attack percentage. Attack percentage specifically is really good on Sung. You primarily want to focus a mix on him and everyone, but additional attack or additional HP, if they scale off of that, would be better on the other hunters as well. But really the good thing is that the game kind of can tell you what the characters really would want, you know, in terms of what you would put on them. They have a recommended list, so when you go in to change artifact, it tells you in the top corner the recommended stats. Like she does stuff based off of her defense penetration stat, so you want to make sure you have as much defense penetration on her as possible. She does an insane amount of damage with more of that on, but that's her specific playstyle. Like that's good for everyone, but that's her specific playstyle. But it comes down to team compositions too. But she scales off of the attack stat, but some characters don't, like I said. And what I mean by that is that when they use these other skills, it says 154% of the user's defense. He does not use his attack stat. Her skills say of the user's attack, of the user's attack, of the user's attack, of the user's defense. Some will say HP. Right, and so their artifacts need to match that. He has no use in an attack stat artifact, for example, because he doesn't use the attack stat. So keep that in mind too. But yes, putting on artifacts that fit your character's needs is the most important thing. And I would get to a point where I would consider min-maxing artifacts, but I wouldn't worry about it all too much. So in terms of the best artifacts to put on your characters, that's kind of hard to say, because some of these characters can use different sets in different pieces of content that would also be extremely good. Like I could put full curse here. I could put, if I wanted to make my Jinu a support or a breaker, I could put other stuff on him too. There are a couple of 8-piece break sets that are pretty good, a couple of support break sets that are support sets for 8 pieces that are really good. Like you can make a lot of different switches based on what you want to do. But what I would recommend on, again, is having the set effects active. Don't worry as much about the stats, worry more about the set effects in this game. So for Jinu, you want 4-piece expert, 4-piece curse. A lot of times, just a cookie cutter method is if they're an attack based DPS character, this would probably be the best build, just for the record. If they're a breaker, full 8-piece burning greed. If they're a support character, full 8-piece burning blessing. That's probably just the best set. If it's not the best set, it's the second best set. Like that's pretty much it. But again, just to keep things short, because you could really get into the weeds on that one. There's a lot of different ways you could break it down, and in different game modes you want to put other stuff on. Like Sylph's Blessing is really good in Guild Boss, or Destroyer can be good there. Like it really does matter. All right, so next I wanted to kind of move from that. Let's talk a little bit about the way to get and manage your resources. So like I said, gold, things like that, those are going to primarily be essence, tickets, things like that. Those are going to be primarily in pieces of content like story, ongoing events, login bonuses. You will also get some of that other stuff like essence stones from like the right side content, like Power of Destruction. As you saw, I got like 500 whatever. You'll get some of that stuff there. But a lot of what you're going to do on a daily basis resides in gates. And if it wasn't clear, Encore and Instance Dungeons is where you get artifacts, by the way. But gates. So gates yield multiple things. So if you're looking for gold specifically, you're going to want to clear these, go for that. Quick tip with gates, try to make sure you're doing A rank or S rank, because once they're done, they do have the ability to give you essence stones here as well. But yes, you want to try to go for the gold gates if you're looking for gold. If you're looking for like just regular training resources, you can do these blue gates. They'll drop more for you there. As you saw, I got some stuff there. The red gates, again, they've got more of these hunter enhancement stuff here. So you would want to focus on this. It tells you what you're probably going to target getting from there. That's the good news. And then the dungeon breaks as well are the last one. I typically farm these a good bit because I like getting the cubes and I like getting those designs. Those are very helpful in terms of advancing more, right? But as you see, we're getting gold here, we're getting shades here, which you need for shadows, shadow skill scrolls, things like that. And you want to make sure that early game you're completing this, especially because you're getting the bonus drops for experience. So you need to make sure you're doing these. But again, AS rank primarily, so you can at least get a little bit of soul essence. As you saw, it was like 38. It's not going to be a lot, right? But you can at least get some, which is useful for sure. All right, so moving on from that, like I said, gold is pretty big here. But another way to get gold that people don't know of as much is you can sell artifacts. Sell, not salvage, right? Yeah, sell, not salvage. Salvage is different because it'll give you some of these artifact enhancement resources. But sell will just flat out give you gold. As you see, 145. I got 40,000 or 4,000, right? And this is selecting what, 100 pieces that I probably won't use because they're too low level or what have you. That's another way to primarily get those. But to be honest, a lot of it also just comes in the form of codes. We get a lot of codes that give a lot of gold. Like, can I see recent claims here? Yeah, 300,000 there. There's another one in here that was 500. Yeah, 500,000 there. These are just the codes. Another 500,000 there. These are just the creator codes. Like, that's all that really is. So you get a lot of gold from that as well too. So that's why it's also important to make sure you're supporting if you're not supporting somebody. But those are the primary ways you're going to get those resources. Otherwise, they'll be like in certain, you know, other events. Like you can get 50,000 here as a roll. You can get it all over the place, really. They do stuff like this. There's 1 million gold here as part of this event specifically. Like you can get all these stuff, like various resources in various places pretty much. But keep that in mind. But make sure you're managing, especially early game, managing your gold, because you're going to need gold for a lot of things. You're going to need gold, and you really start running out of it when you start working on artifacts primarily. But you need it for leveling up hunters. You need it for increasing artifacts. You'll need it for workshop. You need it if you need to reroll the stat that they give you. You need it pretty much everywhere. So keep that in mind with managing that resource specifically. And the only other thing I really would say to manage a lot would probably be traces of shadow. Those are still a little bit weird because they're giving more of them. They're easier to get, but manage them. Don't willy-nilly upgrade shadows. We didn't really talk much about shadows. Quick tip on shadows is only the first shadow when you're selecting your team, you know, you get to choose 3. The first slot one has their passive active, the other ones don't. They all have a shadow authority, which is a passive or a leader skill. All team members' ultimate skill damage increases. Crit hit rate here, right? Like they all have that, and some of them are really good on certain teams. Remember I talked about Yu Hyun, the fire girl with the shotgun or whatever that is called, how she does the defense penetration stuff. There's a shadow that works extremely well with that. So like, you know, there's stuff like that. Like characters that spam their skills work extremely well with Big Rock here because he increases the skill damage. Right, a character like Amamiya Mirai or Chahin works really well with this guy. Most hunters, most of the time, Igris is pretty universally one of the best ones to choose as your primary shadow. Beru can be good, but he increases attack, crit hit damage is whatever. But it's okay. It's better than just Blades, who does attack only, right? But he increases attack, which, like I said, not all hunters need that. So make sure you're keeping that in mind. You're not really using this because 8% crit hit damage is extremely low, not worth it. But what I will say is on Serbi, he is one of the best secondary shadows. So what you want to do for the second and third slots is you want to bring shadows that have nice debuff effects. And Serbi has one of the best ones. Combustion here, extremely strong. Beru has punishment, extremely strong too. He stole that from Min and he heals. That's too funny. Punishment. And you also can get defense down here, which is not very common among hunters. Sung Jin-woo can do it whenever he wants with a shadow step, but most hunters can't do this. So this is pretty good when you're using a team that does not include Sung Jin-woo. That's mostly it. So the primary shadow depends, but you really can't go wrong with crit hit rate going up here. But focus on specific shadows. I would mostly only upgrade, you know, probably Egress, Beru, and Serbi for the most part. I think you can clear pretty much the entire game with just stat 3. And then as you get deeper into it, you can unlock these other shadows and do other things with them if you want to do that. They've all got different things they're really good for. And like I said, certain teams are better with them. And then also they have their weapons here too. You don't necessarily need their weapons. They unlock an extra skill and an extra passive. If you want that, you can unlock it. Obviously, they would get stronger, do more damage, but shadows are not a huge part of the game in general, so I wouldn't worry much about that. You just really want that leader skill primarily, and then secondary skills on the shadows. And as a result, that means that you don't really need to waste, quote unquote, waste the traces of shadows early on certain shadows, right? But that's another one I would say to just kind of keep your eye on in terms of your resources and the way that you manage them, because you don't want to blow your resources all the time. But yeah, speaking of which, let's move on from that. I just want to say that, you know, we talked about the characters and I talked about how you need certain stuff together. It's extremely important as you get into the game to have team synergy and not only worrying about having the best hunters or the highest power hunters on your team. The team synergy is the most important thing, because these characters are going to really help carry you through most of the content. And again, that's exclusive to the non-Sung Jin-woo stuff, because when it's Sung, you can get away with a lot of different 3 support character combos, right? But let's give an example of team synergy. I talked about her, right, and her weapon increases the attack of the team member with the highest crit rate by 300 per 1,000 of Isol's attack. So firstly, this means that you need to have your main DPS, which is Yusi Hyun or Kanai Tawata, as your highest crit rate character. Crit rate, right? Increases their attack per 1,000 of Isol's attack. So you want to have Isol having as much attack as possible, specifically additional attack, right? You have to know these things. You have to know these things because that is a huge bonus on your primary DPS characters, right? Isol or Essel also has, like I said, more effects in here. She's the breaker. She does a bunch of things here that's very useful. Yes, but she also has prey, increases the target's fire damage, right? You want to make sure you're focusing on these things. And like I said earlier, hunters will have effects in here where it's like, oh, give me a full team of a specific synergy. Increases Amamiya Mirai's wind damage by 10% for every wind team member in the party, stacking up to 3 times. Now, these things are restricted towards having certain limit breaks, but you want to be mindful of that. You don't want to, you know, not be aware of that. So keep that in mind as well. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure that you guys do support the channel, like I said. And above all else, anytime there's an ongoing event, I didn't talk much about it. I just kind of passively went to it. Make sure that you are completing them to your full ability, because there's a lot of different stuff in here. There's a lot of different stuff. You want to make sure you do this as well. Oh, by the way, I want to say another way to get quick essence, if you haven't already, is to talk to these dudes in the lobby. This is another quick way. This isn't like a how to get essence stones video. Like if you haven't talked to them, you can talk to them. They'll give you like 5 or whatever. That's whatever. But you also want to make sure you're joining a guild. I didn't really talk about guilds, but guilds are pretty big as you get into it, because the guild exclusively, and you want to make sure you're joining a guild and you're participating. That means completing your daily missions and hitting the boss battle a couple of times a week. But guilds have the exchange shop, which give you more ways to get weapon tickets, right? More of all these other resources. And they update this consistently. As you get deeper into it, you can get better things that are down here as well. So you want to make sure you're joining your guilds as well. And they also give you buffs if you need that, like extra 300 all your guys' attack, defense, and HP, extra damage in the ranking modes. Guild is very important. It's very important. So that's mostly everything. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you happen to be new. I'll see you all later. Remember, hit that thumbs up. It's free. It helps. Thank you. See you later.